In this video, we're going to find out if the new Galaxy Quest 4K from Paramount is worth a damn or if I just poured my money down the drain. If you find this video helpful, leave a comment. Alright, let's start with the good news first. There's much better color reproduction here compared to the old flat-looking Blu-ray. Skin tones are fuller and overall the picture's a little more saturated. And you can see here in the analysis that some content, like sections that have a lot of red and green, make pretty good use of wide color gamut. But overall the picture falls mostly within Rec. 709, so most displays should handle it well. Also good news, the soundtrack has been upgraded to Dolby Atmos and it sounds really good. And there is a lot of dialogue in the movie, but there's still quite a few scenes with noticeable height effects and strong bass. And the overall soundstage feels more open and dynamic. And sadly, that concludes everything good about this release. Now for the bad news. This picture's as soft as tissue paper. I mean, I don't know what's going on here, and it doesn't even really look like they've scrubbed it to try to create that digital look. It's just soft. Let's compare it to the Blu-ray. So you can pretty much forget about razor sharp 4K detail with this one. And whether or not this was done deliberately, I'm sure will be debated, but I can say with all honesty that if you go into this expecting a more detailed picture than a standard 1080p Blu-ray, you're going to be disappointed. And yeah, the old Blu-ray probably did have some light sharpening to it, but at least it does give the illusion of detail. Alright, one more. Unfortunately, the HDR is about as bland as it gets and does very little to boost the contrast. And this is the kind of movie you would expect to leap off the screen, but instead it's mostly bleak. And you can see here in the HDR analysis that even the daylight scenes are not very bright. Even the sky is barely above 100 nits. So if you're watching this in an average lit room, it's probably going to look pretty bland. And even when you look at this scene where they made such a big deal about changing the aspect ratio, you know, you might expect a little bit more punch to the picture, but instead it's barely above SDR. And then you have this ridiculous aspect ratio. They've gone back to the gimmick that was used in theaters, and I'm sure that looked okay on a large screen, but it just looks stupid here. And I was looking at some of the comments on the Blu-ray.com forum, and it just never ceases to amaze me how so many of these clowns have infiltrated this community. You know, these people that lose their mind over AI, or they'll totally disregard a new 4K release because one little sound effect got changed. But then they're okay with stupid shit like this. I mean, it looks like you're watching a non-anamorphic DVD. It's just distracting and it's completely unnecessary for the home release. And that's why they didn't do it on the previous releases. So did I waste my money on this one? Well, I think overall this was a huge letdown visually. And you know, I'm sure it's probably accurate to the original vision, but at the end of the day, do you want to spend $25 for a 4K that looks dull and lifeless because that's how it looked theatrically? Or would you rather have something a little more dynamic? The big deal here is the Atmos soundtrack, and realistically that's about the only reason I can think of for upgrading. And because I'm always looking for a good Atmos soundtrack, that softens the blow a little bit and keeps the buyer's remorse down. But overall, this is a disappointing release, especially after waiting this long for an upgrade. And now I await getting ripped apart in the comments. See you later.